The top 12 things dogs on your transport want you to know, plus a few handy tips about cats. Part 3 of a 3-part presentation. Welcome back. Here's number 8 on the list. Dogs like being members of a team. When dogs walk or stand side by side, the psychology is a lot like a school of fish, a football team, or a family. There is a spirit of unity, of security, of togetherness, and of us and them identities. Teamwork strengthens bonds. When dogs stand across from a person or another dog, they don't feel the love the same way they can when they're standing side by side. Here, Erica, Ronnie the Doberman, and Robert demonstrate a useful repositioning technique for getting dogs who may be a little wary on your team. It's time for Ronnie's nail trim, and Erica enlists Robert's help to put Ronnie on her team.
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to just bring Ronnie around and behind me and then just pause right here so that we're kind of lined up and she is right in between us.
Okay.
Alright, she's doing good. So I'm going to have you just pass the leash to me. Okay. Alright, and then why don't you just take a couple of steps forward. Alright, Ronnie.
Walking side by side creates and solidifies bonds, even between different species. You can do it with goats, cows, horses, llamas, little kids in strollers, and even teenage skateboarders at Venice Beach. Talk about a different species. You can also use this approach when introducing new people to dogs, especially if they need to overcome their fear. This is actually one of the pictures from the book Smile and Other Practical Life Lessons Your Dogs Can Teach You While You Are Training Them. Here's the story behind the picture. Chain link fencing was prompting some of Safe Harbor Farm's dogs to get overly focused upon and excited about the goats on the other side. Not a good nor a safe situation. In considering their options, after all, everyone at Safe Harbor Farm has to get along. It's one of the rules. The volunteers asked themselves, what would they do if this was two groups of dogs harassing each other from either side of the fence? Well, they knew the answer to that question. Everyone would take some side-by-side walks together, the better to form bonds and get everyone on the same team. So that is what they did with the dogs and a few leash-trained goats, and peace ensued immediately. Yes, walking side by side sends that powerful a message, without a word spoken. The concept of side-by-side orientation is also important when dogs are kenneled and crated. Whenever possible, please don't house us across from one another and don't separate us using baby gates. Doing so divides us socially and psychologically, creating in essence two teams and not one. Mix in a little excitement or some unstable energy, and it creates a real me versus him mentality. Housing dogs that don't know each other across from one another is the #1 reason so many shelters and boarding facilities are so noisy. When dogs are kenneled and crated face to face, they are set up for failure and for stress. To ease that stress and stop a significant amount of barking, hang opaque plexiglass panels along the lower half of the public side of kennels and along one side of any shelter aisle, including the doors. Use black roofing paper or a similar material on your transports to create visual barriers between crated dogs that don't know each other. It's inexpensive and it comes in big rolls. On to number 9 of our list of 12. The best communication with canines follows 2 golden rules. Golden rule number 1, reward what you want. And golden rule number 2, a little bit harder to follow sometimes, is stop rewarding what you don't want. This principle also applies. Every behavior reflects an energy level and a state of mind. When you reward one, you reward all 3, for better or worse. Consider this scenario. George has reached his destination. Wise to the need to set his 2 transportees up for success in their new location, he lets them poop and pee in a quiet spot before taking them for a side-by-side 10-minute walk. This allows them to stretch their legs and get a measure of their new digs. When it comes time to release them in their new playpen, they are ready to race and roll. George now has 2 choices. He can unclip the dog's leashes and step back to protect his legs as they race off to play with tails raised. Or he can unclip the leash of the calmer dog while gently rubbing her ears. Enjoying the ear rub, she relaxes and remains close to George rather than launch off his feet. The process is repeated with the second dog once he too relaxes. Can you see how the second simple option rewards what George wants? A calm transition into gentle play, so he doesn't get what he doesn't want, bowled over by rowdy, unruly dogs. Now his dogs will trot off with their tails carried neutrally to begin their play a few feet away and not on top of him. George's legs remain safe and his dogs don't project unbridled energy to the other dogs nearby. As a species, us dogs are incredibly observant by nature. We're problem solvers who look for routines and patterns in the behavior of the people around us. When you take the time, each and every time, to reward only what you want and not what you don't want, your message to us is clear. In this situation, where 25 of us are waiting to pass from our pooping pen into our play yard, we know from experience what Lynne wants to see and what won't work. What she wants is calm energy, a relaxed state of mind, and polite sitting or standing. What she won't reward by letting us pass is elevated energy, anticipation, whining, pawing, crowding, or fidgeting. And because Lynne takes the time every time to reward what she wants and not what she doesn't, and because she's consistent, we all quiet quickly. New dogs learn from the old guard, and the group activity builds bonds. When 25 dogs quiet down all at once, you can actually feel the silence. It's pretty cool for everyone. Although it makes a lot of sense to calmly recognize and reward calmness and relaxation, the better to get more of it, human beings tend to take both things for granted. If anything, you tend to reward animation, despite the fact that animation can slip into arousal or even anxiety. Flip isn't a happy dog. Whiny, barky, jumpy guys like him, consistently touched, talked to, and picked up for their whining, barking, and jumping, aren't content, and they are often dumped at shelters by the very people that rewarded their animation and arousal. So how can you be sure you're rewarding the right energy level and state of mind? It's easier than you think. Simply watch our tails. We use our tails to tell the world how we feel: relaxed, engaged, excited, or about to take charge. A relaxed dog allows his tail to hang down with no tension at all. A tail positioned up, but without tension, belongs to an alert but not overly concerned dog. Often it conveys, "I'm ready. What should we do next?" The higher the tail is carried, the more alert and energized the dog. A tail raised with tension and at full height, like a shark's fin, is saying, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Or, "I'm about to take charge." The more tension in the tail, the more you need to be aware, regardless of whether it is still or wagging. The more tension in the tail, the higher the intensity of a dog's focus, even if he isn't moving anything else. Some of the most lethal hunters stand perfectly still before pouncing. Here Jackson demonstrates holding his tail between his legs, and he combines it with some shaking and shivering. Shaking and shivering is his behavior, and his tail tells you his state of mind is concerned, and his energy level is elevated. With the best of intentions to calm and comfort him, you might reach to pet and talk to him. But if you do, what state of mind and energy level are you reinforcing? Wouldn't it be better to get him moving so he can move on to the next moment, both physically and psychologically? Yes, yes, and yes. It is also human to touch and talk another individual through worrisome situations. Your culture is like that. But us dogs don't see your touch and conversation the same way. Consider what any good mama dog would do in the same situation. Mama would get her pup moving, the better to move him physically and psychologically into the next moment. And she would do so in a calm, matter-of-fact way, without conversation and without a lot of touching. Rather than pet and talk to us when we're unsure, unsettled, or reactive, get us moving in a relaxed, matter-of-fact way at your side. If we are unsure or unsettled, it provides guidance. If we are reactive, it provides an alternate action to take. This also applies to little guys held in your arms. Either get moving yourself or get us on the ground and moving to help us move on. 2 more to go. Here's number 11 on the list. With cage sharks, nothing's personal. Cage sharks are dogs who are love bugs in most circumstances, but put them in a cage and they are all fang and fury. Unable to approach and be approached from the side puts them into a fight because I can't flee state of mind. Talking to them, reaching for them, and maintaining eye contact only makes things worse. Cage sharks take canine social protocol very seriously. So what can you do? First, cover their cages with a towel to reduce all eye contact. Then, when you must approach, turn your side or your back to them, the better to encourage them to use their sense of smell, as opposed to their more guarded, less curious sense of sight. Keep your energy relaxed and matter-of-fact. Don't be hesitant in mind or body. Don't rush things. And let them walk out of their cage on their own without reaching for them. If you can, keep them leashed at all times, with one end of the leash hooked to the top of the crate. This will allow you to reach for the leash instead of for the dog. In the case of leash chewers, old-fashioned metal leashes work very, very well. Last but not least, comfort counts. Here are a few more things you can do to make our ride with you more comfortable. Follow the 3-foot rule. If you have toddlers and youngsters with you, make sure they ask your permission before moving within 3 feet of any of us. And make sure they stand at our side first to give us some time for a good sniff and a walk away. Keep the volume down. We don't mind listening to books on tape, and soft music isn't bad either. Keep the rowdy stuff to yourself, however. Remember, it's all verbal energy to us, and the more is not the better. Be aware of the heat of the sun. As the day goes on, the sun shifts, and a comfortable spot in your car can become horribly hot and uncomfortable as the day goes on. And for dog's sake, get rid of those plug-ins. Don't forget, our sense of smell is thousands times better than yours. Please don't assault it with fragrance. If transporting kitties is your thing, here are a few things they want you to know. Cats have their own way of communicating non-verbally. The next time you need to relax or draw in an uncertain one, let your hands come to rest in front of your hips. Now stretch the fingers of one hand slowly before bringing them back into a relaxed fist. Do the same with your other hand. Repeat this motion unhurriedly, low and slow, one hand at a time, as if you're a contented kitty kneading her paws. A little happy feet goes a long, long way with the cats. To demonstrate the power of the happy paw, here's another story. A number of years back, Lynne visited a municipal animal shelter that had a depressing room set aside for the temporary holding of quote-unquote unadoptable cats. She was standing in the middle of the room talking to a staff member when she started kneading her hands, low and slow. Within 30 seconds, nearly one-half of the cats in the room were kneading their paws with her, and one silly kitty was on its back kneading all 4 feet frantically in the air. "These aren't feral cats," she said, and she urged the staff to move the cats to the adoption floor. It was the first time any cats made it out of that room alive. Oh, and little Miss 4 feet in the air, she was one of them. She went home with Lynne. When it comes to the kitty in a carrier dance, it pays to let them lead. Here is Maggie May. Maggie hates everyone, but she isn't as dangerous as she would have you think. When it comes time to get her out of the carrier, watch what she does and follow her lead. Watch for 2 things, a slow blink and a look away. Both are her way of saying, "I'm letting my guard down for a moment. What are you going to do about it?" She's not saying reach into my carrier. Not yet. You need to return her slow blink or look away with one of your own. It lets her know that she can trust you and that you honor her feline nature enough to speak her language. Now you can reach into her carrier to gently rub her forehead before scruffing her to draw her in close, the better to securely carry her to where you want to go. There is so much more to learn about conversing with other species, and we urge you to embrace your learning curve, the better to be multilingual. When it comes to communicating with us canines, Dr. Seuss's fishy friend here makes a good point. But even though the answers to common canine questions can be beautifully simple, humans often don't think of them without a little help. Two good user-friendly books that combine human psychology with canine psychology so people can really relate to what they're reading about the dogs includes practical information on these topics. Canine body language and social cues. Energy, quantity and quality, both human and canine. Associations. By associations I mean, is X positive or negative? Does X increase or does it decrease a dog's energy level? And does you doing X induce a dog to do Y? Practical routines. Using tools. Treadmilling. De-stressing stressed dogs, including separation anxiety. Matching your response to different behaviors. When to use your voice. Troubleshooting misbehaviors, especially barking and aggression. Choosing professional help. And of course, choosing the right dog. 100% of the proceeds from both books go to dog rescue and a pet parenting project for libraries. Learning Dog was written from the lecture notes of the Learning Dog Conference for shelter personnel, rescue organizations, veterinary clinics, and boarding and training facilities, and it's linked to 42 video clips online. More about it can be found at learningdog.us. Smile and other practical life lessons your dogs can teach you while you are training them was written for everyone, yes, even your neighbors and in-laws. Chapter excerpts and ordering information can be found at givesmiles.us. It can also be purchased wholesale by shelters and rescue organizations to help them raise funds for all their hard work.